Looks like we are live. Should be. Okay, yeah, looks like we are. All right, okie dokes, okie dokes. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Welcome back to the coverage, folks. Just had a little delay there setting up the stream on my laptop. It was just glitching out a little bit, so yeah, it took a few minutes to get that sorted out. But good to have you guys back. We are back with Formula One here, and we have got Monaco. Monaco taking place in 27 minutes' time. We will have free practice 1, and it's not a sprint weekend, so we'll have free practice 2 and free practice 3 well. And then, of course, we will have quali and the race. Yeah, so nice exciting weekend lined up ahead for us. We've got quite a lot of upgrade packages from all of the different teams, so it is it's good to see a lot of Monaco specific upgrades. In fact, I've got the document loaded up, so I'll go through the document with you guys shortly just to get a look at what sort of upgrades everyone has brought and how things are going in that regard. There isn't straight line mode. That is correct. That is correct. We do not have any straight line mode this week. So because of that, there have been a lot of upgrades that are very specific to Monaco itself and very specific to not having straight line mode whatsoever. So in fact, I can pull up one of these images. I had one prepared. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, so let's get rid of the chat for a second here. And this is the upgrade that Mercedes have brought to their rear wing. Now, essentially what this is the FIA, when they made the regulations, they said that for your DRS actuator or for your straight mode actuator, you can have this much space and you can put it in wherever you want in this much space, and it's totally fine, and that's what the rules are. You've got this essentially little 3D box of space, of volume, where you can put your actuator. And because here in Monaco there is no actuator needed for straight mode, what happens is that the teams are like, oh well, we don't need this, so we might as well use this space to generate extra downforce. So you can see here in the red line, you can see that that's a normal rear wing just generating its downforce, pushing its air upwards. But then you've also got all of these other little winglets that have been added on to generate that extra downforce at the rear of the car. So this is not just Mercedes that have done that. A lot of other teams have done that. And yeah, no, it's just a Monaco specific thing. And as soon as they, take it off, as soon as we go to a different circuit, we're never going to see this ever again. So there you go. That's one of the things. And let's now go to upgrade document. All right, so this is the upgrade document here. You can see, in fact, let me just zoom in. So this is McLaren here. You're going to see a lot of this circuit-specific things where they just change something specifically for Monaco itself. And yeah, you've got some changes here at the front suspension, and again, some changes there at the rear wing, which is what we saw from Mercedes. Got Mercedes there, you can see their rear wing performance, small winglets added within the volume that is within the straight mode fairing volume. And just that's what Mercedes have brought. We've got Red Bull with some reliability upgrades, reliability, and then again another little thing on the rear wing. Same thing as Mercedes, you can see there just a little circle on that section. We have got, again, Ferrari with circuit specific. They're just adding extra downforce to the car because it is Monaco at the end of the day. Similar thing with Williams, they've got something at their exhaust tailpipe, and then they've got a slightly different front suspension geometry, because here in Monaco, the wheels have to turn. You need a much tighter turning circle to make it round the circuit because it is so narrow and so small, and that's why they've got to modify a bit of the front suspension as well. So I think that's what Williams are doing there. Similar thing for Racing Bulls, tweaks at the rear wing, tweaks at the suspension. Aston Martin have got front suspension tweaks, and then their cooling ducts have been tweaked as well. This is another thing. So typically, of course, these cars are designed, the engine will be outputting however much heat it will output, but the cars go up to speeds of 300 k's per hour, 350 kilometers per hour, and at that point you get a bunch of air flowing through the car, and that cools down the engine. But here in Monaco, of course, the speeds are not that high, but the cars are still generating the same amount of power, so you need to increase the amount of cooling that you've got to make sure that your car doesn't overheat. Same things for Haas. You've got your front track rod position has been modified to give them more steering angle. Yeah, this is the exact thing. Slight modification to the front track rod geometry was required in order to comply with the specific steering angle demands imposed by Monaco. So yeah, changes to their front suspension, changes to their rear wing. Audi have done a similar thing, and yeah, Audi haven't actually modified their front suspension and then you've got Alpine with more winglets at the rear, and Cadillac with also more winglets at the rear. So those are the upgrades, folks. Every team has brought upgrades this weekend, and most of them comprise of changes to the rear wing and then changes to the front suspension. Pretty much to be expected, what you expect, what we've seen so many years in the past in Monaco. It's always the same sort of stuff. So there you go. Let's move back to there we go. Alrighty. Did you get a haircut, Larry? Indeed I did. Also, folks, if you haven't hit the like button, be sure to do so. Would be much, much appreciated. And we're not too far away from 240,000 subscribers. What upgrades did McLaren bring, guys? Rear wing upgrades and suspension upgrades. Nothing much past that. Also, given that we've got, a lot of people have tuned in nice and early, what I can do is gift, I think I can gift 5... 5 gifted memberships, so you guys will become a channel member. So I'm going to gift them out now. Much, much appreciated for all of the folks that do tune in early to the FP1, FP2, FP3 streams. So maybe a few of you will get, gifted membership. Right. Okay, so there are 20 minutes remaining till the start of FP1. We'll get the data loading through shortly, but we also do have Formula 2 and Formula 3 here, and we also have Porsche Super Cup. So a very packed schedule here in Monaco, and you got a lot of cars driving around and a lot of racing taking place. But it's always good to see, and we'll see how the Formula 2, Formula 3 plays out, if they're a little bit better in terms of their overtaking, and how, of course, the Formula 1 overtaking situation plays out, of course, with no straight mode. Maybe that'll change things. It's tough to say, of course. Last year wasn't particularly special for overtaking, but neither has really any year been for Monaco in the past in the past decade or so, you could put it. We had I think we had one race where it was raining. That was quite exciting. And apart from that, of course, loads of the positions are determined by the strategy at the end of the day. Yeah. As you can drive for Hadjar, it is the 2025 data. Pop that up on the screen for you. The way that it normally goes is that we don't get the 2026 data loading through until about, I'd say maybe 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes or so before the start of the session. So that's why I just have the 2025 data up from last year. you think Lando's record will be broken with these regs? I think actually it might be, and my reasoning for that is that Monaco is on paper one of the best circuits for this type of regulation, because where you've got loads of recharge and things like that going on. Because if you look throughout the entire calendar, and then you look at the percentage amount of time the drivers spend on the brakes, the drivers spend at half throttle or, a partial amount of throttle, and then the drivers spend at full throttle. Monaco has got the biggest percentage of the drivers spending time on the brakes, the biggest percentage of the drivers being at 20% throttle, 50% throttle, and then the smallest percentage of the drivers spending their time at full throttle. So if that could mean that you recharge your battery really, really well and really efficiently, and then when you do go full throttle, you can just go 100% power and use a lot of it, and that might result in the lap times falling down, but I don't think it's going to beat the 2025 regulations, because so far this season I think we've got close to the 2025 regs, but I don't think we have actually beaten them. So again, I think we're going to get a similar situation where we are close, but we won't beat the regulations. Cars haven't developed that much yet. Do you think Aston will finish the race? Yeah, I think they probably will. I think their reliability's been getting better. It's still not amazing, but I hope so. Misspelled Raskas. There's a... Forgot. Oh, I probably did. Oh, yeah, that is correct. Let me... What was the correct spelling? Oh, yeah, there. Appreciated. They're racing at the night or the day. They are racing in the day. Yeah. Think about the Mercedes engine compression ratio ban. Do you think they will affect them and the other teams that use Mercedes engine? Well, potentially. However, I think that the special tricks that Mercedes have due to the compression ratio or whatever it is aren't as big as people were making them out to be at the start of the season. At the start of the season, it was very much like, oh my god, this is going to be the deciding factor in the championship. And I think there are other things that were the deciding factor. And, that's sort of more evident by the fact that you can see at the start of the season, Mercedes had their energy deployment system, perfectly tuned, and they were doing brilliant in that sort of regard when it came to deploying a battery, recharging a battery, and the McLaren team and the Williams were really struggling in that regard compared to the Mercedes, and within a few races they'd figured it out and their performance increased quite a bit. So I think that is the much bigger factor rather than, the tiny percentage improvements that they are getting from the compression ratio. Is it ORF today? It is ORF. That is correct, folks. If you do want to watch the cover on via a VPN, then ORF Formula One is the way to do so. There you go. Is that the data just coming through now? Yeah, we should have the 2026 data coming through. What do you think? Will there be any races without straight mode? Well, with Monaco, I think Monaco will be the only one. Maybe, no, actually not maybe Hungary. Monaco and Hungary, as far as I remember, were the only two tracks that only had one DRS zone. But then they changed Hungary, and I think Hungary used to have two now. So I think Monaco will just be the only one. Maybe they just want to try it out, right? And what better place to try it out than Monaco, to be honest? They weren't going to have that much overtaking anyway. So, yeah. All right, here we go. Let's just pop it over to fully mode. There we go. Okay, is it mandatory showstopper? I don't think so. Right? Last year it was a mandatory two stopper because they tried to make it interesting and it didn't work. So surely not, right? I would think that they wouldn't do that. If they knew it wasn't going to work. Yeah. Will Ferrari make a comeback because they're fastest in the low speed corners? Apologies for the yawning, folks. And I think, look, there's definitely a chance that they could, um, but it's all yet to be seen, right? Like with Monaco, because it is such a special track and so different to the rest of the circuits. I think that just because a rule has held up in the past at other racetracks where Ferrari are good in the slow speed corners and they're not so good in the high speed, doesn't necessarily translate over to Monaco. Of course, there's a much higher chance that it will, but it's not guaranteed. So, as with all things, we'll just have to see. In other news, of course, Charles Leclerc's got his contract extended with Ferrari. I mean, what do you guys think of that? One thing that sort of came back to me when I saw that news was at the end when Sebastian Vettel left Ferrari at the end of 2020. He wrote he gave Charles Leclerc one of his helmets and then signed it off with a note and being like, you are one of the most talented drivers that I've ever seen. Don't waste your talent. And well, he's continued on at Ferrari, which could be a potential contradiction to that. But I'll leave that up to your own interpretation. Charles doesn't want a championship, it seems. Yeah, well, look, if he doesn't extend his contract with Ferrari, where exactly does he go, though? That's the other thing, right? With Ferrari, it's guaranteed to be at least podiums, at least somewhere near the top. But, if he leaves Ferrari, then where do you envision him really going? Maybe it's McLaren, but, Andrea Stella shut down those rumours of Piastri leaving very quickly. Um, is he going to move to Red Bull? Do Red Bull want to kick out Hadjar and kick out another one of their junior drivers and then hire a driver from a different team? Is that, it sort of just defeats the point of their entire junior program. So, who knows? Literally every champion who went to Ferrari since Michael thought they were going to be the one to change them. It's been 20 years. Yeah, it has. It has. Um, and even before Michael, like how strong were Ferrari before Michael Schumacher arrived? Drive any vehicle for Ferrari is not a wasted life. Charles will be fine. Yeah, I mean, of course, like Charles is living a nice, comfortable life. He'll have as many Ferraris as he wants for the rest of his life. So if you look at it in a different perspective, then yeah, is it Charles living totally fine? But of course, I think in the back of all of these Formula One drivers' mind, they have their sole and one and only aim is to be a Formula One world champion, and not reaching that goal is in of itself a bit of you know a lack of satisfaction. Where can we watch the stream? It's on ORF, folks. ORF, O for Oscar, R for Race, F for Ferrari. And yeah, they should have their broadcast starting. They should have it starting right now, actually. Yeah. Thanks for the donation there, Elite Hurricane 95. It says your message is retracted. Oh. Ads are on. No, I've definitely blocked adverts. There should be no adverts playing. If once you first click onto the live stream, you will get an advert. There's nothing that I can unfortunately do about that. But during the live stream itself, there should be no more ads. Oh, we've reached our sub target. Fantastic. Yeah, I guess I'll pop that up. Yeah, I mean, we hit 240 last race, and then a few people unsubscribed over the little break, and then, yeah, we've hit 240 again. What is my prediction on the starting grid? I'm going to go Ferrari in the top 3. Yeah, that's one of my predictions. I think it might be a bit of a bold one, but I think that Charles Leclerc or Lewis Hamilton, one of the two, will pull something out of the bag here with the Ferrari team. Also, this weekend, I've got rid of all of the the corner numbers, and I've just given them the names instead, because, well, firstly, they were all just looking a little bit cluttered with all of the numbers, and also, it's nice to have the names for once in a while. A lot of the circuits that we go to just don't have any names for any of the corners, so it's quite nice to have the names here. Everyone is saying it'll be Ferrari 1-2. Well, look, I am. I'm always a bit cautious when coming towards a Ferrari 1-2. All of the Ferrari fans are always like this before the race weekend, especially a race weekend where they're supposed to do well at. So I like to take all of this stuff with a pinch of salt. I wrote to the FIA to split the Friday practice into 2 parts. First 30 minutes, 11 cars on the track. For second 30 minutes, 11 cars on the track. What do you guys think? Well, look, that firstly reduces the amount of time that each driver gets on the track, right? Normally they'll get a full hour on the track, but now they only get 30 minutes if they were to do that. The other thing is that there is no point to doing that because during qualifying, during the race, there will be all 22 cars on the circuit. It will get extremely tight and extremely packed, and the drivers should have a chance to practice for that. So we will, we'll see a lot of chaos. I'm sure a lot of these radio messages that will be coming through on this on the broadcast will very much be just telling the drivers that, there's someone behind you, 2 seconds behind, 3 seconds behind, watch out. And I'm sure we're going to get quite a few drivers getting blocked and things like that. And it's going to be quite the hectic lap, really. Alright folks, this is the other thing. Monaco is of course the shortest circuit on the Formula 1 calendar. It is 3.337 kilometers long. That's approximately just over 2 miles. And that means that with 22 cars, each driver is just going to have approximately 150 meters of space in front and behind them. I think, yeah. So It is, yeah, very, very tightly packed. Typically, the drivers, even at the short circuits like Canada, let's say, the drivers normally have 200, 250 meters of space around them to, well, to make sure that they aren't blocking anyone or anything like this. But it's down to 150, so a huge drop off there in the space. And then the other thing, of course, is that you can't just go off the circuit, because off the circuit is just the barrier. And we'll see how that plays out. Of course, we've only got one rookie here, that is Arvin Lindblad, and he has driven around this circuit before in Formula 2, and I'm sure in Formula 3 as well, which means that he's got a bit of experience with the chaos and the carnage that comes with driving in Monaco. Right, let me take you through a flying lap of the circuit. So here we go then. Let's make our way around the lap. So you exit the final corner here, get onto the power, and this is of course the longest straight. The drivers will reach up into 7th gear and then not even shift into 8th. That is 7th gear at the end of the first straight. Through Sandoval you go and get very, very close to the walls, as I will say with every single corner here. You then go up through the hill and towards now Casino, which is this right-hander. Then there's a bump on the left-hand side, so you got to go slightly right to avoid it. Then down the hill in towards Mirabeau. You've got the Lowe's hairpin here, which is, or you could call it the station hairpin, because it just turns into a bit of a bus stop or a train station. Like, oh, it's so slow through there. And then Portier on the exit there. You're exiting in 2nd gear, short shifting a lot to minimise your wheel spin. You go through the tunnel section, get flash banged as you exit the tunnel. Onto the brakes you go for the Nouvelle chicane. Very easy to clip your rear wheel. So in fact, let me just go back, because I think every single Monaco Grand Prix weekend we have an occasion where a driver, what they will do is they will turn in, and their front wheel will be right up against the barrier. However, the Formula 1 cars are ever so slightly wider at the rear than they are the front, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% certain, but the rear wheels are slightly wider. And what that means is when they turn in, if the car slides a little bit, the rear wheels will clip the inside of the barriers, but the front wheels won't. And then you damage your rear suspension and you spin around. So that's one of the most common crashes here in Monaco, and we'll see who falls foul of it today. Then you make your way through the swimming pool chicane in towards Rascasse, which you could send a dive bomb through here. We've seen an attempt 2019. Charles Leclerc tried one, didn't go so well for him, but we have seen overtakes there in the past. And then you make your way down the final, the start-finish straight, and that's a lap of Monaco. Very, very short lap. We're looking at lap times around 1:10 or so as we get towards quali. But the big thing here is the drivers very much do a sort of build up. They do not just go out onto the circuit and go flat out, because you get mistakes occurring, and you just don't want that happening, because if you get a mistake, you cause a red flag, which firstly delays the session, and then the other thing is that you lose all your running time as well. All right, where am I going to put my webcam? You know what? I'm going to just put it over here, because, well, who's looking at top speeds anyway? You don't need to look at the top speeds. It's Monaco. So I'll play around with this in a bit. But we've got cars out onto the circuit. As you can see there, Perez, Lindblad, Verstappen, Hadjar are leading the way there from the front, and we'll have the rest of the drivers coming out shortly. Alright, hard tyres for everyone that is coming out, and it's, hard tyres. Nobody's pushing right at the start here. Many teams brought interesting rear wing clips for extra downforce. How does that even work? Well, I can quickly show you one of these diagrams, so let's just make... Okay, so essentially what it is you can see here that they've got the main rear wing below, and then they've got these all little winglets that they've added on there, and the aim essentially is to push the air upwards out. We've already got a yellow flag, Charles Leclerc. Oh, yellow flag. Charles Leclerc. No way. Has he? Is that an issue or is that him crashed? Um. I know. Okay. It seems like it was just an issue. He's moving on. But yeah, just back to these rear wings. What was happening is, you're pushing the air upwards, and you create a high pressure zone above the wing and a low pressure zone below the wing, and the high pressure squeezes down on the low pressure and squeezes the car into the ground. The reason why they have all of these special actuators here is because we have no straight mode, and because there's no straight mode, they don't need the system, the actuator that moves the rear wing up and down like this. They can always just have it up, and that's why they've removed the system to move the rear wing up and down, and they've added these little mini wings to get some extra downforce. All right. Yeah, there you go. We got 4,000 people tuned in. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. And as you can see here, we've got the drivers making their way around the circuit. Nothing too exciting, but all 22 cars have hit the track within the first 3 minutes. Just going to show how desperate everyone is to get out, do some running here in Monaco, and get their drivers, feeling comfortable with the circuit. Okay, yeah, but everyone on hard tires, I suspect they'll stay out on hard tires for quite a while. The hard tires will probably also be a race tire, so we'll expect to see the drivers use that tire for the race because, well, you can just put on a set of hard tires and park it till the end of the race and let no one overtake you. I do think we're going to have an attempt for Fernando Alonso to pull off a huge train. He did pull it off in the last race, I think. So, yeah, I suspect... Yeah, in last race in Monaco, we had a big old DRS train with Fernando Alonso, and I suspect they're gonna try to do that again. And if you go 360 kilometers per hour, that is 1 second per 100 meters, which means that they have just around 2 seconds in front and the back, and that's why I recommended the split for Friday, despite the shorter time. Potentially, but the drivers aren't really going 360 Ks around here in Monaco. They're typically, I think their average speed is far, far lower than that, so it gives them a bit more leeway. And the drivers want as much practice as possible. Slower and slower that you build up to your quali lap, the less and less chances you have to crash. And last year when we had all of the rookies out there, one thing that was repeated to all of the rookies was do not attack in FP1. Just don't even try and get close to the wall. Drive at 80%, drive at 70%, get a feel for the circuit, get a feel for the conditions, see what the grip is doing, and then slowly start increasing those percentages. People like Max Verstappen, people like Fernando Alonso can maybe, go out onto the circuit and immediately start pushing. They've driven around the circuit quite a long time. They are quite experienced here, but especially the newer drivers, they've got to be nice and careful. We got one of the drivers complaining about steering lock and not having enough of it to get the rotation through the hairpin. So yeah, this is another thing. Because Monaco is so tight, they actually need the wheels to turn at a larger angle than they typically do, right? So I'm sure you've all got your road cars, and when you turn your steering wheel, the front wheels will turn a certain amount. Now in Formula One, the amount that the front wheels turn is actually very, very small. Because the cars are generally going through high-speed corners. They're not very tight corners, and they don't need a small turning radius, right? Like your road car will need a small turning radius so you can, drive into places, park in a parking spot and things like that. But there's no need for that in Formula One, except when you get to Monaco, where you have these really slow corners, really tight corners, and you need the extra steering angle on your front wheels. So they got new steering racks to adjust for that. Okay. We got Nico Hulkenberg up there in third position, but as you can see, folks, last year's pole timer 1 minute 9, 1 minute 10 approximately, right? They are 7 seconds off last year's pole timer, even in P1, right? And you can see down in P4, down in P20 and stuff like that, they are a full 10 seconds off. So a lot of improvement left. Greetings from Amsterdam, Holland. Hello, folks. Pretty nice there from Lewis, actually. Immediately into the 1 minute 15s. So, the track will ramp up, of course. It's typically just used for a standard road, of course, at the end of the day. So there'll be a lot of rubbering in that'll be taking place. A lot of dust and dirt will be getting shifted off the circuit, off towards the side, and getting the track to be faster and faster. We got Max Verstappen purple in the first sector. Anthony's looking all right as well. There it goes. Larry, why is my webcam so small? To be honest, I just don't really know where to put it this weekend. The screen's already a little bit full, so I've just made it nice and small and covered up the speed traps, given that it doesn't really matter at Monaco. Verstappen and Hamilton, P1, P2, 2021 throwback, is it? Yeah. No, they're doing. It's good to see them back, isn't it? I mean, the race that we had in Canada between the two guys was great. Really good racing, and of course in the cool down room as well, the drivers, they both talked to each other about how the racing was better than it was in previous years and how they could stay close to each other. And then Max was like, "Oh, Lewis, you were really good through turn 6," and then Lewis said something similar along the lines to Max as well. So it was great to see, really. First of all, I like your polo. Second, I'm a delusional Ferrari fan convinced Leclerc's going to win. All right. Well, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But thanks for the compliment. And I don't know. Charles Leclerc may do well, may not. Ferrari in the first 10 minutes of FP1 looks strong, but it's the first 10 minutes of FP1, so. Bottom right is the team radio running speech to text. That is correct. So, we got all of the... Essentially, most of this is just... You can see that it's just going to be... 3.5 seconds back. And you got Russell 2.5 seconds back and things like that. So, we've got Perez out on mediums, actually. Perez, Bottas, Stroll out on mediums. Also, folks, what are your forecasts? What are your predictions for how many overtakes we're going to have this year in Monaco? Are we going to have one, like we did last year? I think we had one, or maybe 2 overtakes in the whole race that weren't on lap number 1. Yeah. I know for a fact that I am going to put an overtake counter, so we'll count the number of overtakes that happened. But see, the thing with Monaco being on the calendar, I don't really have that much of an issue with Monaco being on the calendar if it was a one-off street race, right? So if you go back in towards the 70s, the 80s, street races were very far and few between, and you didn't have that many. So when Formula 1 came to Monaco, it was, despite the racing not being good even in the past, it was very much the spectacle of Formula 1 cars being so close to walls, being driven through city streets, and that was the wow factor about it, even though the racing wasn't great. But as time has progressed, of course, we have lost that wow factor to Monaco, because we have tracks like Singapore, we have tracks like Baku, we have tracks like Miami and Las Vegas. So the wow factor that typically was the standout thing for Monaco, even if you didn't have any overtakes, has been decreased and diminished so much to the point where people are like, well, what's even the point if we're not going to have overtakes, because we're not being amazed or totally blown away by the fact that we've got Formula One cars driving through city streets. So this track, of course, is way more compact. It is has got more turns and things like that, but it's it's the best way I can put it is it's same but slightly different, and yeah, slightly different isn't enough to excite clearly all of the Formula One fans. Okay. Are we going to see times close to Lash's pole? No, I suspect we'll be seeing times probably 2 seconds off, but it will get relatively close. We've still got improvements left to go. Of course, the drivers are all out on hard tires right now, and of course, the track is nowhere near rubbered in. Given the increased risk to drivers and cars, do you think there are too many street circuits on the calendar? Um, I mean, increased risk is like it's a bit difficult to, of course, quantify that increased risk, right? Because the FIA still have their safety standards for street circuits, and in fact, they'll probably be more stringent on street circuits than they are on normal racetracks about all of the safety stuff. So, if you purely look at risk in terms of, are the drivers going to be safe driving around, then everything complies with the FIA Grade 1 certification. So, yeah, I don't think there's increased risk, but of course the chances of crashes and things like that go up, and I think people do like seeing that. However, it does of course increase the amount of budget that goes towards crashed cars and repairing crashed parts. So I think that's a slightly different discussion. Hulkenberg's locked in. Yeah, Hulkenberg's doing a great job, really. Up there in P5, the Audi car is looking quite good in his hands, to be fair. Charles Leclerc has got purple first sector, not too shabby. And we got Verstappen purple in the final sector, but lap time still around the 1 minute 15s. Hamilton improved a little bit, but we are still a ways away from the 1 minute 14s. Where to watch with a VPN? It is ORF, so O for Oscar, R for Race, F for Ferrari. That's where you want to go, and you can watch the coverage. Audi is the fourth best chassis. I think Audi will do wonders in this race. Potentially. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, this is a nice improvement there from Charles Leclerc. A 1:15.06, about 6 tenths ahead of his teammate. So maybe Ferraris are looking good. Stop the count, folks. Stop the count. Oh, where's the meme at? Where is? Oh no, wrong one. There we go. We are so back, ladies and gents. They need to bring back Mugello. That circuit was a beauty. Honestly, yeah, Mugello, incredible track. The speeds and the G-forces that they were taking through these corners when they raced there, I think in 2020, was mega. And I think George Russell's quali lap in at Mugello in 2020 or 2021, he was still in the Williams. Even George Russell's quali lap in the Williams was spectacular around there. And I know MotoGP is racing there. Is it maybe this weekend? Is MotoGP racing there, or did they race there last weekend? But either way, it's a great racetrack, and it'll be good to maybe alternate the racetracks in Italy. Of course, I don't think we have Imola, of course, anymore, but yeah, Monza's always a good track as well, so I can't really complain too much. You think the Mercedes engine loophole was 3 to 4 times? No, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. As with most of Formula One rumors are, most of them. All right, and we got about half the cars coming back into the pits for some setup changes. The rest of the cars doing some more laps out on the track, just gathering some more data, of course. They will have to make some changes to their typical setup routine, of course, because they do have extra downforce on the rear wing, but they don't really have the extra downforce on the front wing. So I suspect that there'll be some shifting in balance between the downforce levels there to ensure that they do all right and they do well. Yeah, the other thing around here in Monaco, of course, it will be your suspension. You do want to take a few curbs here and there in Monaco, and the track itself is quite bumpy, of course, it being a street circuit rather than a purpose-built racetrack. So the suspension and the chassis, of course, have to be ideally optimized for that. Monza's good racing, worrying how it'll be with this year's power units. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned, but I think that they'll have it sorted. ORF isn't working. I think ORF should be working. I've got ORF working, so no offense. Like I'm just here once because my streamer isn't live. You need to do some more commentary, like you're just talking but no commentary. Come on, man. Um, yeah, I think are you talking about Stuffy? But either way, yeah. At least on the channel, we do just this FP1's typically just a podcast. You've got the drivers lapping around, of course. Gasly there up into ninth position, 1 minute 17. But yeah, they're all 2 seconds off the pace, so not much of interest really is going on the circuit. Still sad about Spa not getting a permanent spot on the calendar. Yeah, Spa, honestly, definitely needs to get a permanent spot on the calendar because incredible racetrack, incredible history, and we always really get good racing there. And the other thing is that whenever we have a race in Spa, they always have it in the season where there potentially is a chance of some thunderstorms, some rain, and that makes it a whole lot more exciting. So, well, we can hope that Spa turns into a every season event rather than every 2 years. These cars still aren't small and too big for Monaco. Yeah, I mean, of course, they've got a little bit smaller, but still rather large when you look at the comparison. And I'm not sure how many people have. Oh, this is the other thing, folks. I totally forgot about this. I mean, it's not that wild, but basically, I on when was it? Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday, I came into London to visit one of my friends, and I was, we were walking down one of these streets, and I saw Mattia Binotto actually. I saw Mattia Binotto walking down the street, and someone was getting a photo with him, and I was about to cross the road to go and to also go and ask for him to get a photo. But then he got a phone call, and then he started walking in the opposite direction. Like we were walking one way, and then Mattia Binotto was going the other way, and And yeah, as just as I was gonna go ask him, oh, can I get a photo with you? He got some phone call from somewhere. Obviously a busy man. He's Formula One team principal. So yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, but I could have got a photo with him. But yeah, it is what it is. Can you share the Monaco hot lap? Yes, I will. Okay, so I'll take you through a quick lap of the circuit. In fact, let me just move it over to the... Oh yeah, okay. So we make your way around the start-finish straight here in towards Sandevot. So there's a little bump here on the entry into this corner. So you've got to be careful not to lock up, because this is quite a few drivers have done that. You can see that just on the replay there. So if I just rewind, the Formula 1 game has modeled this quite well, but you can see just a little bump on the turning in point. So if you lock up going over that bump, then you go straight into the barriers. We've seen that happen a few times. Drivers lock up and then go straight on. So the driver's got to be careful in that sort of regard, not to get caught out by that bump. Then you go, of course, up the hill and very, very tight and twisty towards the casino corner onto the brakes. You got the track turning in and cambering in to help you out through there. Then downhill in towards Mirabeau. Of course, go off into the left-hand side. You've got quite a few escape roads around here on Monaco, and you've got to make that decision nice and early on. Do I want to abort this corner and not crash the car, or will I still make the corner? And it's always a difficult one to make. You exit Portier there in second gear, short shifting up through the gears to ensure that you don't get too much wheel spin. Make your way through the tunnel now down towards the Nouvelle chicane. Still, again, you never hit 8th gear in Monaco here. Just the driver's 8th gear is just geared too wrongly. They don't change the gear ratios in between race weekends, so the drivers never hit 8th gear actually. You make your way through the swimming pool chicane. Again, tap the brakes, get as close to the barrier as you can, and we love to see those slow-mos where the drivers turn in and they're millimetres away from the barriers. Through Rascasse, and then you make your way through the final corner. Try and clip the wall there on the exit. It gives you actually a little bit of a boost and a little bit of extra speed, and that's a lap of Monaco, folks. So quite a bumpy, twisty circuit, and the drivers do have to be very aware of where the bumps are and to not lock up. Yeah, you set the gears at the beginning of the season and you stick to it, and for that reason, it's optimized for the entire season. You've got to have the same gear ratios working in Monaco and the same gear ratios working in Monza. So for that reason, you just never hit 8th gear at Monaco. Russell's a bit rattled over Kimi. He needs to lock in and race like him, as the Max, regardless of the car. Yeah, it's Russell's been making a few comments like, oh, this is Kimi's championship to lose or something like that, and it's interesting to see what he's saying, but I think he's just trying to play mind games. At the end of the day, this is I was listening to an Olympian talk about what their mindset is going into their the final whatever their race is or whatever they do, and people essentially, they're right at the peak of their sport, and their mindset is essentially, whoever's made it to the Olympics, whoever's there in the final heat, the final round, they've all got the capability to win, but then it's your mental strength and your ability to show up there on the day where it matters and to deliver. So Kimi has got it within him to win the championship. He's got it within him to set those pole position lap times and get those and get the lead in towards turn number 1 and hold on to it. And the same thing can be said for George Russell. But the final 1%, the final 0.5% that is required to get you over the line is purely a mental game. And George Russell has started to play some of those mind games because it seems like it's required. We got a brief yellow flag there from Lewis Hamilton, but track is clear and he continues on. Kimmy's reply was he hasn't achieved anything to lose. Yeah, no, Kimmy. Honestly, it was a good reply there from Kimmy. But yeah, it is mind games at the end of the day, right? You saw it with Michael Schumacher and Nico Rosberg. You saw it with Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. Same thing with Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. You had mind games between Vettel and Mark Webber. It's a continuous thing that happens in the sport, and the ones that the drivers that win are the ones that can either block out the mind games or they can play it themselves. Good morning. Are you going to be recording new flying laps for the F1 26 DLC? I haven't actually. Yeah, EA Sports sent me a message being like, "Oh, the DLC is coming out," and but yeah, I didn't reply to them actually. So I probably should do that and get the DLC. Yeah, but I will record some of the laps with the newer ones. All right, we got 7,000 people tuning in. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you are enjoying the coverage, be sure to hit the like button, and hopefully can see you around for free practice 2 and free practice. F1 gamer, what are the qualifications for being an F1 engineer? Well, you probably need some sort of engineering degree or physics background, and then some practical real world experience. It's pretty similar to most jobs, to be totally honest. A relevant degree in the field, and then some experience and some interest to show that you are willing to learn everything that the sport has to offer or the job has to offer. Okay. Yeah, you got 30 minutes in towards free practice 1, and we have got Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton P1, P2, Kimi Antonelli P3 is now currently out on a fresh set of medium tyres. And we'll have George Russell also out on fresh sets of mediums. We'll see what their lap times look like. Is there super clipping in Monaco? Absolutely not. Monaco is a circuit where the drivers spend the most time on the brakes and the most time at partial throttle in the Formula One calendar. So I think it's approximately 30% of the lap that they spend on the brakes, or maybe 28% of the lap, and then they spend again around 30 to 35% of the lap at partial throttle. Of course, it depends on fuel loads and what tires they're on and how old those tires are and things like that. But those numbers are the highest that we see out of all of the racetracks in Formula One. At Monza, you spend a lot less time on the brakes, you spend a lot less time at partial throttle, so that's where you get the most super clipping, where you've got less time on the brakes and less time at partial throttle. F1 Gamer, why is there a number 1 crown for me? It's probably because you've typed more in the chat than everyone else, but yeah. Ferrari is cooking, indeed they are. Oh, VSC deployed, what's this? It seems like everyone's doing A-okay. They might just be testing it. Marshall's on the track at turn number 18, okay. So yeah, there must have been a little piece of debris which caused them to get a VSC out. Marshall's just gone and picked up the circuit, picked up the debris. The track is clear, VSC is ending, and there we go. We are green flag again. Hey. Even though it's just free practice, seeing science all the way down there is literally making me cry. Yeah, it's not great for Williams actually, because looking at 2025, they weren't too bad around here in Monaco. I think they were up. They're both drivers were up in the top 10, at least in FP1, and yeah, things have been lacking a little bit since since the start of this season. There were big promises and big hopes for Williams this year. James Vowles making a lot of claims, oh, we're rebuilding the team from scratch, from ground zero, and we're building the foundations of a championship winning team, etc, etc, etc. And yeah, it seems like building those foundations has taken an awful long time. F1 Gamer, what's your favourite circuit? Probably either Suzuka or Brazil. And which circuit would I like to return? I would say the Hockenheim Ring. Yeah. Okay. Oh, purple first sector there for Kimi Antonelli. He's on, of course, fresh set of mediums. Might be on a bit of a push lap. We'll see what he can do. And we've got George Russell here also pushing reasonably hard. He's about 2/10 down in sector 1. Albon and Sainz have been saying 2028, 2029 and championship by 2030 is their target. Well, I've heard that statement a lot of times. From, not that exact statement, but similar variations. We've had it from the Alpine team, we've had it from when they were called Renault before, we had it from McLaren Honda. So, we've also had it from McLaren, and it worked out for McLaren, but for the flip side, I'm sure every 5 times you hear a team say, in 5 years' time, we're going to be winning the championship. Yeah, most of the time, it doesn't turn out to be true, because not everyone can win the championship in 5 years' time. Kimi Antonelli goes top of the times there, a 1:14.537, and that is with medium tyres. He goes 4/10 clear of Charles Leclerc. Very, very nice job there from Kimi. So, I'm always skeptical of these claims where the teams are like, yeah, in 4 years' time we'll be back in business. Like, just don't worry about it. It's a very similar story to the Ferrari is next year will be our year, but these are the teams that are further down the field. They can't say next year; they've got to say 4 years. Are they doing a mandatory 2-stop this year? No, they are not. So it'll just be your standard 1-stop for Monaco, unless there's rain or anything like that. But I don't think there is any rain on the forecast. So yeah, a dry weekend out in the southern coast of France, or just Monaco. F1 Gamer, do you think the Mercedes loophole is going to make Mercedes more dominant? No, Mercedes, I don't think most of their performance is coming from the loophole. So, yeah. And you've also asked me that question loads of times. And Hadjar up into P7, not too shabby there. Again, hard tyres for him, so it's a little bit different to compare right now because, of course, we've got some drivers out on medium, some drivers out on hards. Have I tried Forza Horizon 6? No, I have not. However, it is something that I do want to do. Forza Horizon 6 does look pretty good. I mean, all of the Forza Horizon games have been pretty good, so yeah, can't really complain too much. But the most that I definitely played Forza Horizon 3 and 4 the most. I don't think I even have 5. Yeah. We got Piastri up into 5th position there, not too shabby from him. And Antonelli pushing again now, second lap that he is pushing, and it is now purple in the middle sector. Oh, the other thing, the tyres that we've got this weekend, they are the softest of Pirelli's range, as expected really. For Monaco, we got the C5, the C4, the C3 for the soft, medium and hard respectively. Oh, red flag. Wait, what? I look away for 1 second. Who's stopped on the circuit? Everyone's moving on the racetrack, guys. What's the red flag for? Um. Oh wait, is it a Red Bull? Oh no, it's a Red Bull. It's Isaac Hadjar has binned it. Yeah. Okay, let me get the replay up, folks. I'll just pop the replay up on the screen. Oh well, close enough to the replay. It was Hadjar there, going through the swimming pool chicane. Has hit the back of. That seems very similar to the crash. What was it? Charles Leclerc had in 2020. One of the years, 2024, I think, maybe 2023 in one of the quali sessions, or 2022, I can't remember, but it seems very similar to that crash. I will just show you guys on the recorded lap at what point on the circuit he crashed at. So, forward, oh, a bit too far. Okay, so you make your way through to back you go, and he made his way fine through the first part of the swimming pool chicane, and then at this point here, he makes his way through the corner, and the rear of the car just slides out. He doesn't even clip the barrier. So he's turned in here. He doesn't clip the barrier on the inside, but the rear of the car just loses grip, and then he slides around. So his car is pointing like this, and then the rear slides out, and he does a 180 with the rear of the car smashing into the barrier just about there to the right hand side, which means the rear of the car, which contains the gearbox and also contains the engine. He went front forward and then the rear also hit it. So actually no, the car didn't do a 180. He went front forward, and then once it bounced off the wall, the rear of the car was pointing towards the wall. But majority of the impact has come on the front of the car, which means that he has avoided the critical components, right? He's avoided the gearbox, he's avoided the engine having major damage, so that it is fine in that regard. Yeah. Bro destroyed the car. Yeah. He's not gonna be too happy about that one. But there's a lot of debris to pick up, and again, they will have to check the barriers, make sure there hasn't been any significant major damage before the green flag comes out. So, yeah. Go. Well, maybe I'll just move my webcam here. But yes, Hadjar has crashed at turn number... Well, at the swimming pool chicane. Do you think Kimi is doing well so far as a championship leader? Yeah, for sure. I mean, he has had a bunch of wins back-to-back, though, so you can't really get much better than that. He has, of course, made his fair few mistakes. Potentially, could have been race-ending mistakes. Potentially could have taken out his teammate if the mistakes had gone slightly differently. But so far, luck has been on his side, and whenever he has made a mistake, he hasn't had to face huge repercussions for it. Maybe a bit of a flat-spotted tyre, maybe a little bit of lost lap time, but no race-ending crash, no crash with his teammate, then causing both, the Mercedes team to go into meltdown or anything like that. So he's done well so far, but he has got to be careful, right? He's got to be careful. There were a lot of people that were worried when he came into Formula 1 that he wouldn't be prepared. His Formula 2 overtakes were a little bit too rash, a little bit too rushed. And, we're starting to see similar sort of things, start to appear. Now, nothing has turned into an actual full-on crash, but with these sort of things, it's always a matter of time until something does go wrong in a major way. How did Hadjar crash the car? So he was the swimming pool chicane is first a right and then a left. And as he turned into the right-hand corner, the rear of the car snapped out. So, yeah, it snaps out. And then he's got to correct it to steer into the slide, of course, to make sure he continues pointing forward. And then he goes straight into the barrier with the front of his car. So the rear of the car is unaffected, undamaged. So the gearbox and the engine should be fine, but of course, front suspension replacement, front wing replacement, front nose cone, that sort of stuff. Will the session get extended like last race weekend? Last race weekend, it got extended because it was a sprint weekend. I think because it is Monaco, there's also a very tight schedule, right? They've got Formula 2 to run, they've got Formula 3 to run, they've also got Porsche Super Cup to run. So I don't think that they will extend it. I think they will just say that, well, you should have planned for this. We know it's Monaco. We know you're probably someone is going to crash. So you've got free practice 2 and free practice 3 to make up for the lost time. Pretty sure his rear left is completely off the car. Is it? I'll have a look. But even then, it was a secondary impact with the rear left, so it still would have been much, much more minor, and it still should be fine. The primary big impact that happened was with the front of the car. Okay, session resuming in 50 seconds, 45, 50 seconds, and we should be back underway for some more racing. Oh well, practice. But yeah, oh no, in fact, not even 45 seconds. We've got Hulkenberg making his way to the end of the pit lane right now. Oh yeah, no, all of the drivers now making their way to the end of the pit lane, so there you go. Oh yeah, his rear left does look reasonably... yeah, the rear left is actually off the car. That is correct. So rear wing also needs to be replaced. And rear axle. It's how it goes in Monaco, isn't it? It is how it goes. But Ferrari looking pretty good here, right? The Ferrari fans, I'm sure you'll love to see this, and you'll also be happy to hear that they're doing it on hard tires, while the Mercedes are doing it on the mediums. So typically here in Monaco, we're seeing about a 4/10 of a difference between the hards and the mediums. So that does put Charles Leclerc around about in line with where Kimi Antonelli is. So good news, isn't it? Good news. Okie dokes, there we go. We got cars out onto the track. Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, Bottas, Gasly, Verstappen, and Lindblad. 16 minutes remain of free practice 1. And... oh, Bottas out on some soft tyres. Interesting. Hulkenberg out on mediums. Verstappen out on mediums. Charles Leclerc, what tyres is he coming out on? Also mediums. All right, looks like we're getting mediums going all around the grid now. So we should get some more representative lap times. The red mini sector means that he's crashed. So, yeah, Hadjar crashed there partway through the third sector. Hadjar back for FP3. I think he could also make it back for FP2. I suspect the Red Bull mechanics will have to skip their lunch, but I think that Hadjar should be able to make it back as long as they have enough spare parts, which they should, given that we are quite the way into the season. They can't go under 1 minute 10 in the first session. Could they do it in the final session? Maybe, but I don't see them improving over last year's time. We haven't seen, as far as I can remember, lap times improving by a huge amount compared to last year. So, yeah. But Monaco, if it was going to happen, Monaco would be the circuit where it does happen. So, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Great seeing the Bottas on board for once. Yeah, also, I don't know what these rumors were about. Bottas losing his seat in Formula One, like pretty stupid rumors to be frankly honest. I don't know who comes up with these, but yeah, Bottas, one of the most experienced people on the grid, helping out a new team in Formula One. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense for Bottas to leave Cadillac, and yeah, the car does look a little bit like a boat when Bottas is driving it around a lot of understeer, and it's not particularly compliant over the curbs. But these are things that will get improved over time. There's no simple way about it really. Need to add some kind of very quiet background music whenever you stop talking. It just goes completely silent. Feels like my stream stopped playing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, I just don't want to get copyrighted. That's the that's the main thing, to be honest. Blue mini sector means that the drivers have driven into the pit lane, so you can see Antonelli and Stroll are currently in the pits, and that's why they've got blue mini sectors at the end of sector 3. And Sergio Perez there has just left the pit lane, and that's why he's got a blue mini sector there at the start of sector 1. Lawson improves up into 10th position, not too shabby there for the Kiwi. How is Arvin Lindblad doing actually? 12th position for him. First time in Monaco with a Formula 1 car. It'll be relatively similar to a Formula 2 car, but a lot more things to manage, a lot more settings on his steering wheel that he'll be told to adjust. We've seen it in the past. Drivers aren't particularly pleased about getting told to change 15 different steering wheel settings over the course of a lap here in Monaco because the corners come thick and fast and you've got no time in between any of them really. You've got a little break through the tunnel, but again you've got to be careful through the tunnel to keep your line, to minimize the distance that you travel and things like that, and then down the start finish straight as well. So it's quite the tricky one. Mental load is very, very high going around Monaco. Alonso improves up into 17th position there. He's on hard tyres, so still some more lap time to be gained once he drops it onto mediums. Got Gasly into 11th, Colapinto into 12th, and Colapinto only half a tenth back from Gasly. So Colapinto in a recent bout of very good form actually. He is keeping up with Pierre Gasly quite well, and he is doing a good job really. So good to see that, and hope he can continue on with the same form. Now that they're both experienced veterans, is there seriously no chance of Sainz and Max teaming up at Red Bull? I don't know. It's tough to see, really. Albon up into 8th position. Pretty good lap there from Alex, no? Yeah, very nicely done. 1.5 seconds back from Antonelli, but still, 8th position. And Verstappen improves up into P3. I know, it's tough to see Sainz leaving Williams now. But look, if the seat was open, like I'm not sure what's going to happen to Hadjar's seat, right? Because Lawson and Lindblad are doing all right. So then, do they just kick Hadjar out of Formula One? I'm not sure, but I do think that if there was a Red Bull seat open, I think Sainz would be open to the idea. I don't think Red Bull are going to out and out kick out Hadjar just to then go and sign Carlos Sainz. Yeah. Max is looking pretty good there on those mediums. Charles Leclerc also, he did improve on his previous lap, right, with those medium tires, and he got closer to Antonelli. He hasn't obviously beaten Anthony's time just yet, but he did get closer. I just started pretty well. Yeah, and this is the other thing. I think recency bias is a little bit too strong in Formula One and in the minds of Formula One fans. Hadjar's not done a terrible job so far this season, right? He hasn't had the best couple of races, but I'm sure has had this crash today. But you got to give the guy a bit of a chance, bit more of a chance. We're only at round number 6 as well, right? So we've still got some more time till the halfway point of the season. We've got Spain next weekend, haven't we? Spain, Barcelona, and that'll be a nice race, always is. And then we have got... No, we've got Austria, and then we've got the UK Grand Prix, British Grand Prix. Nice sequence of races, actually. Nice sequence of races. George Russell, purple in the first sector. Lewis Hamilton looks like he's about to go purple in the second sector. And looking good here, looking good. Hasn't had the best run through the Nouvelle Chicane, has Lewis Hamilton. But he crosses the middle sector line, still to go purple regardless. Good day to remember Lawson only had 2 races. Yeah, it's... it is... honestly, the Red Bull... I don't know why they do it to themselves. Had Hamilton just up into first position there, 3/10 ahead of Antonelli. Nicely done. Charles Leclerc, purple in the first sector, looking to go quicker than his teammate. But I don't know why Red Bull do this. They apply huge amounts of pressure to their rookie drivers, essentially just saying that, if you can't deliver in 12 races and you can't get close to Max Verstappen, who is, a 4-time world champion, then we're going to say, see you later, mate, and bin you off and just pick up the next rookie that comes along the line. Like, it's just not a conducive environment to having a good growth in Formula One and letting these drivers adapt. So, yeah, it's difficult. Charles Leclerc does beat Lewis Hamilton. Purple in all 3 sectors for Charles Leclerc into the 1:13s, and he's 2/10 quicker than his teammate. Nicely done for Charles Leclerc. And the Ferrari meme shall return. Where has it gone? We are so back, ladies and gentlemen. With 7 minutes left on the clock, we'll see if the Ferrari 1-2 remains. In fact, there's a yellow flag there. Someone going slowly. Oh no, been cleared up again. And that is, I think it's one of the Racing Bulls. Is that Lindblad? Lindblad going maybe a little bit slowly, but he might just be letting people by. Ortoletto up into 8th. Actually, that's looking pretty good. The Audi 7th and 8th position. Their chassis. Someone was saying in the chat that apparently the Audi chassis is supposed to be one of the better ones. And 7th and 8th position, now 7th and 9th, reflects that quite nicely. Gasly improves up into 8th position. We'll see if Colapinto can match him shortly. But do look at the gaps again there, folks. You have got the top 4 within half a second, and then George Russell half a second back from his teammate. What is going on there with George? At the end of the day, it is FP1. We've still got a lot of time till we get to quali, and I think Russell might just be playing it safe and not wanting to, potentially crash his car or anything like that. But yeah, and the signs aren't looking all that strong for George Russell. So, Cashew the kitten? Wrapping his pants knowing that a teenager is outperforming him. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a very good partnership going on between Kimi Antonelli, the Italians, and Toto Wolff and Mercedes, the Germans, right? The last time we had a good partnership, and a very strong partnership between the Germans and the Italians, we had Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. And, well, we all know how that one turned out. So things are looking good, right? Things are looking good. Toto Wolff put a lot of faith in Kimi Antonelli. A lot of faith. They tried to do the swimming pool in Madrid, and if you deploy your DRS, it's impossible to attempt. Is it? Oh, okay. I'm not sure. Charles Leclerc, 5 centimeters from the wall. Oh. And World War Two, yeah, okay. I guess, yeah. The last time before Michael Schumacher, when you had a strong partnership between the Germans and the Italians, you could also put as World War Two as well. Okay. All right, folks. We got a nice new livery here for Audi. They've got some more yellow on their car rather than the. Oh, we got a yellow flag. That's been taken away again. Oh, yeah. I don't know. It might be a little piece of debris, I think, at the Nouvelle chicane, but Sainz is moving all right, and so is Alonso. But yeah, nice new livery, a nice little change here for the Monaco Grand Prix. But I do prefer the orange or the red, whatever they had before. Okay, looks like whatever debris there was. Oh, I was about to say it looks like it's been cleared up, but it hasn't, and it's back to yellow flags. It's been cleared up. I don't know what's going on there. They keep deploying the yellow flag and then getting rid of it. Red flag. Okay, red flag. Oh, there's just a huge piece of debris in the middle of the circuit, and that's a piece of Fernando Alonso's front wing. So there you go, folks. A piece of Fernando Alonso's front wing fell off, and that's what's caused the red flag. And I presume with 3 minutes left on the clock, I don't think we're going to get a restart. Actually, maybe. So Alonso making his way through the tunnel, down towards Nouvelle chicane, onto the brakes. Oh, rear of the car just locks up, and then he goes into the wall. So that's what it was. Yeah, rear of the car locks up, hits the front right of his nose cone and his front wing. That breaks off and falls off to the side, and then also hits the rear of his rear tire, and that damages a little bit as well. It's suboptimal there for Fernando Alonso. Yeah, rear locking. I mean, actually, that does make sense. That does make sense because typically, right? So in Monaco, when there are loads of very small braking zones, you don't get a big advantage by having a brake bias shifted towards the front. So when you have big braking zones like you do in Monaco like you do in Monza or in Bahrain, that's when shifting your brake balance forwards to potentially 58% or 56% or 57% benefits you a lot of lap time, and it helps with the overall speed of the car. But when you have very short braking zones, actually having that big front brake bias isn't what you want, because you also want to be turning the steering wheel a little bit. So what happens is that your brake bias is, yeah, you keep it sort of relatively balanced between the front and the rear. However, then when you go into a big braking zone, like you do have at the Nouvelle chicane, I'd say the Nouvelle chicane is the biggest braking zone on the Monaco lap, and at that point you do want to shift it forwards ever so slightly, just to get the benefit of the extra front braking performance, but also to prevent the locking of the rear. So, I cannot say this with certainty, but there is a chance that, Fernando Alonso didn't shift his brake balance forwards enough, or forgot to switch it from the setting as he was going through the tunnel, and that meant that he locked up as he went into the Nouvelle chicane. It could have been he didn't increase the brake bias, or it could have just been the brake bias was just set incorrectly. But yeah, big braking zones, you want more shift towards the front. Otherwise, you do risk locking the rears, which is what happened to Alonso. All right. We got the cars back out onto the circuit for the final minute. So yeah, they're just coming out onto the track. They'll do their they'll do their grid starts, and then they'll go back into the circuit, back into the pits. How do you spell chicane? Yeah, you spell chicane as written up on the screen there underneath the Nouvelle chicane. Yeah, Fernando Alonso cut the chicane. He must get a 5-second time penalty. Otherwise, it would be a yoke. Yeah. All right. The checkered flag is flying. The first driver to hit the checkered flag will be Valtteri Bottas. We have all of most of the drivers coming out onto the circuit here for the final minute of FP1. And that is that, folks. So it's been a very nice pleasure commentating FP1 to you guys. The FP2 broadcast is published up on the channel page, so if you guys are interested in watching that, then go ahead and check that out. I will also end the stream, and it will take you over there as well. So there we go. Yeah, so that's all really. It's been a relatively nice FP1 session, a few incidents here and there. Ferrari won too at the end of the day, which is fantastic. All of the Ferrari fans, the delusion and the hopium is at maximum levels right now, so that is great to see. We'll see how long that lasts. And we'll have FP2 starting in 2.5 hours' time. The broadcast will start in 2 hours' time, and I look forward to there, folks. Yeah, I'm gonna go get myself some lunch, and yeah. So Hadjar should be fine. He should get his car repaired. I think the mechanics are gonna have to skip lunch, but they have to repair the front left suspension, rear left suspension, and also then the front wing and then the nose cone. But everything else should be okay. Yeah. But that's all, folks. So I'll end the stream now. I'll take you over to the FP2 stream. If you guys could hit the like button on that, hit the reminder button on that. It helps out the algorithm a lot. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so. And I shall see you all in 2 hours' time for free practice 2. All the drivers now just making their way back into the pit lane. All right. Bye-bye.